Hey everyone! Tonight we're taking a journey to one of Africa's most fascinating and powerful ancient kingdoms, the mighty realm of Aksum, which for over 1,000 years served as the crucial link between the Roman Empire, ancient India, and the mysterious lands of interior Africa. I know African history doesn't get nearly enough attention in most history classes, but the Kingdom of Aksum was genuinely one of the world's great powers, controlling trade routes that connected 3 continents and building monuments that still inspire awe today. If you're enjoying these deep dives into forgotten civilizations, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I'm always curious where you're all listening from around the world, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. It never stops amazing me how people fall asleep to these ancient stories from every corner of the globe, and tonight we're exploring a corner that doesn't get nearly enough recognition. Alright, find that perfect comfortable position, take a nice slow breath, and let your body sink completely into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back to the 5th century CE to the bustling highland city of Aksum in what is now northern Ethiopia, where frankincense and silk, ivory and spices, gold and exotic animals all flowed through markets that connected the known world. Trust me, by the time we're done, you'll understand why ancient writers called this kingdom one of the 4 great powers of the world, alongside Rome, Persia, and China. Dawn in the City of Kings. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Aksum, the capital of one of ancient Africa's greatest kingdoms, in the year 525 CE. It's early morning, perhaps an hour before sunrise, and you're lying on a comfortable bed in your stone house in the merchant's quarter of this remarkable highland city. The air is cool and thin. Aksum sits at over 7,000 feet above sea level, creating a climate that's surprisingly temperate despite being just 14 degrees north of the equator. Your name is Azana, named for the great king who converted the kingdom to Christianity over a century ago, and you are a successful merchant specializing in the frankincense trade that has made Aksum wealthy beyond measure. You're not just any trader, but one of the privileged few, licensed by the king himself to deal in the most precious aromatics, those resins that the Roman Empire values more highly than gold. The room around you reflects your prosperity and the cosmopolitan nature of Aksumite society. The walls are built of finely cut granite blocks, fitted together with such precision that no mortar was needed, a technique that Aksumite builders have perfected over centuries. Carved stone window frames let in the cool highland air, while colorful textiles from India and Persia hang as both decoration and insulation against the mountain chill. Your breathing is still slow from sleep. Take a moment now to breathe more deeply, feeling the thin, clean air of the Ethiopian highlands fill your lungs. In through your nose slowly and completely, then out through your mouth with a gentle sigh. The air carries scents that tell the story of your world. The sweet smoke of frankincense from household altars, the earthy smell of the red volcanic soil that makes these highlands so fertile, and something else, something that speaks of distant places. The lingering aroma of cardamom and cinnamon from the spice merchants' compounds. You sit up slowly, feeling the familiar comfort of your sleeping mat, layers of fine cotton from Egypt topped with silk from far-off China, luxuries that flow through Aksum's markets like water through a riverbed. The pre-dawn darkness is not complete. Oil lamps burn perpetually in niches, carved into the walls, their flames fed by olive oil from the Mediterranean, creating dancing shadows that bring the carved reliefs on your walls to life. These reliefs tell stories, not of your own deeds, but of the great trade expeditions that have made Aksum prosperous. Here, carved in low relief, is a caravan of camels loaded with precious goods. There, a ship with the distinctive curved prow used by merchants sailing between Adulis, Aksum's great port city, and the harbors of the Red Sea. The stone itself is local granite, but the artistic techniques show influences from Egypt, from Nubia, from the classical world. Aksum has always been a place where cultures meet and blend. Standing now, you move to the window and look out over your remarkable city. Aksum spreads across the highland plateau in carefully planned districts, its stone buildings rising in terraces that follow the natural contours of the landscape. Even in the pre-dawn darkness, you can see the massive shapes that dominate the city's skyline, the great stelae, towering granite obelisks that mark the tombs of kings and proclaim Aksum's power to anyone approaching the city. The largest of these monuments rises over 100 feet into the air, carved from a single piece of granite with such skill that it appears to be a multi-story building rendered in stone. These stelae are uniquely Aksumite, unlike anything built anywhere else in the ancient world, and they serve as both tomb markers and symbols of royal power visible from miles away. Everything you see from this window speaks of a kingdom at the height of its powers. Aksum in the 6th century CE controls trade routes that stretch from the interior of Africa to the courts of Byzantium, from the spice islands of the Indian Ocean to the markets of Alexandria. Your city is truly a crossroads of the ancient world, and you are privileged to call it home. This is your world, Izana, a civilization that most history books ignore but which was genuinely one of the ancient world's great powers, controlling the flow of luxury goods between 3 continents and building monuments that rival anything in Egypt or Rome. Let yourself settle into this reality now, feeling your feet on the cool stone floor, your breathing steady and calm in the thin highland air. The morning rituals of a cosmopolitan kingdom. The household begins to stir as the first light of dawn creeps over the eastern mountains. You can hear your servants moving quietly through the stone corridors, beginning their daily tasks, with the practiced efficiency that keeps a prosperous merchant's establishment running smoothly. The sounds are distinctly Aksumite, the soft scrape of stone grinding grain, the gentle splash of water being poured from ceramic jars, the quiet conversations conducted in Guizi, the ancient language that serves as both the tongue of trade and the sacred language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Dawit, your chief steward, appears at your chamber door carrying a bronze basin filled with water that has been warmed over the kitchen fire. He's a man of middle years, his family having served yours for 2 generations, his loyalty absolute and his understanding of the complex social dynamics of Aksumite society invaluable to your business operations. Good morning, master, he says in Guizi, setting the basin on a carved stone stand. The caravan from Adulis arrived during the night. They carry letters from our agents in the Roman territories and samples of the new season's frankincense. This news quickens your pulse. The frankincense trade operates on seasonal patterns, determined by monsoon winds and the growing cycles of the boswellia trees that produce the precious resin. New season samples mean the opportunity to secure contracts for the finest grades of aromatic, the ones that will bring premium prices in the markets of Constantinople and Rome. You perform your morning ablutions with the careful attention that successful merchants have learned to pay to appearance and hygiene. Aksum is a cosmopolitan city where you might encounter Roman diplomats, Persian traders, Indian merchants, and Arabian caravan leaders, all in the same day. Your appearance must reflect not just personal prosperity but the sophistication of Aksumite civilization itself. The water is pleasantly warm, scented with rose petals that arrived with the last shipment from Damascus. You wash your hands and face, feeling the cool highland air dry your skin quickly in the thin atmosphere. Your breathing naturally synchronizes with these familiar morning movements, in and out, steady and controlled, preparing your body for another day navigating the complex world of international trade. From a carved wooden chest inlaid with ivory from the interior regions, you select your clothing for the day. The base layer is a fine cotton tunic, woven in the distinctive style of Aksumite textiles, white cotton with geometric patterns worked in colored threads. Over this goes a shawl of silk from China, dyed the deep blue that comes from indigo traded up from the southern regions of your kingdom. Your outer robe is your pride, a garment of the finest wool, dyed with murex purple obtained through trade with Phoenician merchants. Purple dye is so expensive that, in the Roman Empire, it's reserved for emperors, but Aksum's position at the center of trade networks makes such luxuries accessible to successful merchants. The color proclaims your status to anyone who understands the economics of ancient luxury goods. As you dress, you can see the city continuing to wake up outside your window. Aksum operates according to rhythms that blend African highland traditions with the cosmopolitan demands of international commerce. Early morning is when caravans arrive or depart, when the great markets begin setting up their stalls, when ships in the distant port of Adulis prepare for the day's loading and unloading. Moving through your house toward the morning meal, you pass rooms that showcase the international character of Aksumite prosperity. Here's a reception chamber decorated with frescoes showing influences from Byzantine art but executed by local craftsmen who have added distinctly African elements to the classical forms. There's a storage room where goods from around the known world await redistribution: Chinese porcelain, Indian textiles, Persian metalwork, and Roman glassware, all sharing space with the ivory, gold, and exotic animals that flow out of Africa's interior. The morning meal reflects this same cosmopolitan character. The base is traditionally Aksumite injera, the spongy flatbread made from teff grain that has been a staple of highland Ethiopian diet for centuries. But the accompaniments tell stories of trade and prosperity. Honey from the highlands mixed with spices from India, dried fruits from Persia, cheese made in the style learned from Greek merchants. Your breathing settles into the relaxed rhythm of morning routine as you eat the familiar flavors, grounding you in the comfortable patterns of daily life while your mind begins to focus on the business challenges that await. The frankincense samples from Adulis will need to be evaluated, prices negotiated with the caravan leaders, and arrangements made for onward shipment to markets in the Roman Empire. As you finish eating, you review the bronze tablets that serve as your record-keeping system. Aksumite merchants use a sophisticated accounting method that tracks goods, credits, and obligations across trading networks that span thousands of miles. Your literacy in Guizi script gives you advantages that many traders lack. The ability to maintain detailed records, correspond with distant agents, and understand the legal documents that govern international commerce. Standing to begin your day, you feel the pleasant anticipation that comes from meaningful work. In a thriving economy, Aksum in the 6th century is experiencing a golden age of prosperity and cultural achievement, and you are privileged to play your part in the trade networks that make this prosperity possible. The great market of nations. Your walk to Aksum's central market takes you through the heart of one of ancient Africa's greatest cities. The streets are paved with fitted stone blocks, creating smooth walkways that can handle the heavy traffic of laden camels, ox-drawn carts, and the constant flow of people from across the known world. The urban planning shows both practical wisdom and aesthetic sensibility: wide boulevards for commercial traffic, narrower residential streets that provide privacy and quiet, and carefully designed drainage systems that channel the highlands. Seasonal rains away from buildings and markets. The morning air carries the sounds of a cosmopolitan city awakening. Conversations flow in half a dozen languages: Guizi, of course, but also Greek, Latin, Arabic, and the various tongues of Indian Ocean traders. Children's voices calling to each other in play, the lowing of cattle being driven to market, the rhythmic hammering from metalworking shops where craftsmen create the tools and weapons that equip Aksum's far-reaching trade expeditions. Your breathing naturally matches your walking pace as you move through these familiar streets. In and out, steady and measured, your body finding its rhythm while your mind begins engaging with the complex calculations that international trade requires. The thin highland air means you must pace yourself, but it also creates a clarity of thought that you've learned to appreciate. The architecture around you tells the story of Aksum's unique position in the ancient world. Here's a church built in the distinctive Aksumite style, multiple stories with stone walls that step inward as they rise, creating a pyramid-like profile that's both structurally sound and visually striking. The building techniques show local innovation, but the decorative elements include crosses and other Christian symbols that reflect Aksum's conversion to Christianity under King Izana a century and a half ago. There's a palace complex where one of the junior members of the royal family maintains his residence. The walls are built of the same precisely fitted granite blocks used throughout the city, but the scale is grander, and the building is topped with decorative elements that proclaim royal status. Guard posts at the entrances are manned by soldiers whose equipment reflects Aksum's military prowess: iron spearheads forged in local workshops, shields covered with leather from highland cattle, and bronze ornaments that demonstrate the metalworking skills that help make Aksumite armies formidable. As you approach the market district, the character of the streets changes. The buildings here are primarily commercial warehouses with thick stone walls to protect valuable goods, workshops where craftsmen process raw materials into finished products, and the counting houses where merchants like yourself maintain offices and conduct the paperwork that keeps international trade functioning. The great market of Aksum opens before you as you turn the final corner, a vast open space, surrounded by covered galleries where merchants from across the known world display their wares. The scale is impressive, perhaps 300 yards on each side, capable of accommodating thousands of traders and customers during the peak seasons when caravans converge on the city from all directions. Your assigned stall is in the section reserved for aromatic goods, reflecting both your specialization and your status within the merchant hierarchy. The location is prime, visible to customers entering from any direction, convenient to the storage areas where your goods are kept, and adjacent to other high-value traders whose presence attracts serious buyers. Tekel, your chief assistant, has already begun setting up the display for the day's business. He's a young man whose family comes from the Adulis region, his understanding of port operations and maritime trade invaluable to your business. His loyalty is absolute, his energy impressive, and his eye for quality frankincense nearly as good as your own. "Master," he says, looking up from arranging samples of different resin grades. The Roman merchant Flavius Maximus arrived with the dawn caravan. He's asking specifically for our finest grade for shipment to Constantinople. The samples from this season's harvest should convince him to place a substantial order. Flavius Maximus represents one of your most important business relationships, a Roman trader who specializes in luxury goods for the imperial court and the wealthy families of the capital. His contracts can represent enormous profits, but he also demands quality that meets the sophisticated expectations of Roman connoisseurs. You examine the new frankincense samples with the practiced eye that years of experience have developed. The resin comes in tiers, irregular drops that have hardened after being extracted from boswellia trees growing in the highlands south and east of Aksum. The finest grades are pale yellow, almost translucent, with the complex aromatic profile that makes frankincense so valuable for religious ceremonies and luxury consumption. Running the resin between your fingers, you evaluate its texture, its color, the intensity of its natural fragrance. This particular batch shows exceptional quality, the kind that will burn with a pure, sweet smoke that Roman priests consider essential for proper religious observances. The wholesale price will be substantial, but the retail value in Constantinople markets will be perhaps 10 times what you'll charge. The market continues to fill as the morning progresses, becoming a vibrant representation of Aksum's role as a crossroads of ancient trade. Here's a Persian merchant examining silk textiles from China, evaluating their quality and considering what prices they might bring in the markets of Damascus. There's an Indian trader offering spices, black pepper, cardamom, cinnamon, goods so valuable they're literally worth their weight in silver. African products are equally prominent. Ivory from elephants hunted in the interior regions, carved by Aksumite craftsmen into decorative objects and practical items that command high prices throughout the ancient world. Gold dust and nuggets from mines in the southern territories, metal so pure that Roman mints prefer it to material from any other source. Exotic animals, young giraffes, rare antelopes, even occasionally lions or leopards, destined for the private menageries of wealthy collectors or the arenas where they'll provide entertainment for Roman crowds. Your breathing settles into the focused pattern that successful negotiations require as Flavius Maximus approaches your stall. The Roman is a man of perhaps 50 years, his toga marking his citizenship, but his practical sandals and sun-weathered face revealing his profession as a working merchant rather than a gentleman of leisure. The dance of international commerce. Izana, my friend, Flavius Maximus says in fluent Guizi, using the common language of Aksumite trade, I trust the seasons have been favorable to your business? The greeting follows the elaborate courtesies that international commerce requires. Before any business can be discussed, there must be inquiries about health, family, mutual acquaintances, and general conditions in your respective regions. These rituals serve practical purposes. They establish trust, demonstrate respect for cultural differences, and provide opportunities to share information that might affect business decisions. You offer him the traditional highland coffee, served in small clay cups with honey and spices. Coffee is native to the Ethiopian highlands, though it hasn't yet spread widely beyond this region. The drink is energizing and aromatic, perfect for the long negotiations that major transactions require. The rains have been generous. You reply, settling into the bargaining rhythm that will determine the day's success. The frankincense trees have produced exceptionally well. Believe you'll find this season's harvest superior to anything we've offered in recent years. Flavius examines the samples with the careful attention that valuable goods demand. He crumbles small pieces between his fingers, testing their texture and release of aromatic compounds. He holds larger pieces up to the light, evaluating their translucency and color. Finally, he burns tiny samples in a bronze brazier, watching the smoke and breathing deeply to assess the quality of fragrance. Excellent quality, he admits, though his tone remains neutral. The first rule of successful bargaining is never to appear too eager. My clients in Constantinople have become increasingly discriminating. They want only the finest grades, and they're willing to pay premium prices for material that meets their standards. The negotiation that follows is a complex dance involving quantities, delivery schedules, payment terms, and quality guarantees. Frankincense prices fluctuate based on seasonal availability, political conditions along trade routes, and demand in end markets. A successful merchant must understand all these variables while maintaining relationships that span years or even decades. Your breathing remains steady and controlled throughout the discussion. The highland air, helping to maintain the mental clarity that complex calculations require. In and out, deep, and even as you evaluate his offers against your knowledge of costs, market conditions, and the needs of other customers who might compete for the same goods. The transaction involves more than simple purchase and sale. Flavius needs arrangements for transportation from Aksum to the port of Adulis, secure loading onto ships capable of Red Sea, navigation, insurance against losses from storms or piracy, and documentation that will satisfy Roman customs officials. Each of these services represents additional profit opportunities for merchants who can provide comprehensive solutions. You also discuss opportunities for reciprocal trade. Flavius has brought samples of Roman goods that might find markets in Aksum or in the African territories beyond. Fine glassware from Syrian workshops, metalwork from Gallic artisans, wine from Italian vineyards, and luxury textiles that might appeal to wealthy Aksumite families. The morning progresses with similar negotiations involving other merchants and different product categories. An Indian trader wants African ivory for carving workshops in coastal Indian cities where craftsmen create decorative objects for wealthy collectors. An Arabian merchant seeks gold dust that will be fashioned into jewelry for wealthy families in Mecca and Medina. Each transaction requires cultural sensitivity and linguistic skill. You negotiate in Guizi with fellow Aksumites, shift to Greek with Byzantine merchants, use Latin for Roman traders, and employ Arabic for caravan leaders from the Arabian Peninsula. This multilingual ability is essential for success in Aksum's cosmopolitan commercial environment. Between major negotiations, you handle dozens of smaller transactions involving local customers. Wealthy Aksumite families want luxury goods for their households: Chinese porcelain for formal dining, Persian carpets for reception rooms, Indian spices for special meals. These domestic sales provide steady income that supplements the dramatic but irregular profits from major international contracts. Your assistants manage much of the routine business, allowing you to focus on the most important negotiations and the strategic decisions that determine long-term success. Tekel handles sales of medium-grade aromatics to regional merchants. Another assistant manages the African ivory trade, evaluating tusks brought by hunters from the interior regions and arranging their preparation for export. The market around you pulses with the energy of international commerce at its most sophisticated level. This isn't simply buying and selling, but a complex web of relationships, obligations, and opportunities that spans 3 continents. Every transaction involves calculations about exchange rates, transportation costs, seasonal timing, and political conditions. In distant territories, as the morning reaches its peak activity level, you pause to appreciate the remarkable scene surrounding you. Here in the highlands of ancient Africa, goods from China, meat products from Rome, Indian merchants bargain with Arabian traders, and local Aksumite products flow out to markets across the known world. This is globalization as it existed in the ancient world, and Aksum stands at its very center, the port that connected worlds. The afternoon brings news that requires your personal attention at Adulis, Aksum's great port city located about a week's journey east toward the Red Sea coast. A ship has arrived from India carrying a cargo that includes several items you've been expecting: spices ordered months ago, silk textiles promised by your agents in Indian Ocean ports, and most importantly, a consignment of pearls that represent a substantial investment and potential profit. The journey to Adulis takes you down from the highland plateau through some of the most dramatic landscape in the ancient world. The route descends over 7,000 feet in elevation, passing through distinct climate zones and ecological regions that each contribute different products to Aksum's trade networks. Your traveling party includes yourself, 2 assistants, 4 armed guards, and a train of pack animals carrying goods and supplies. The guards are necessary. The route to Adulis, while well-traveled and generally safe, passes through regions where bandits occasionally prey on merchant caravans. Your guards are professional soldiers, members of the royal army who supplement their income by providing protection for commercial expeditions. The trail begins in the highland agricultural zone where farmers grow the teff grain that provides Aksum's basic food supply. The fields are terraced into the hillsides, creating a landscape that demonstrates both the engineering skills of Aksumite farmers and their success in maximizing agricultural productivity from challenging terrain. During the growing season, these terraces create a green staircase effect that is both practical and beautiful. Your breathing adjusts naturally to the changing altitude as the caravan descends toward the coast. The thin highland air gradually becomes thicker and more humid, requiring different breathing patterns but also providing more oxygen for sustained physical effort. In and out, steady and deep, as your body adapts to the changing environmental conditions. As you descend, the vegetation changes dramatically. The highland crops give way to shrublands where frankincense trees grow, their twisted trunks and sparse foliage adapted to the drier conditions of intermediate elevations. These trees are the source of Aksum's most valuable export, and their presence along the trade route serves as a constant reminder of the natural resources that make your kingdom prosperous. Lower still, the landscape becomes more desert-like, with scattered acacia trees and thorny shrubs adapted to the hot, dry conditions near the Red Sea coast. This ecological diversity within Aksum's territory provides different resources for trade highland agricultural products, intermediate zone aromatics, and coastal salt and marine products. The trail itself shows evidence of Aksum's sophisticated approach to infrastructure development. Stone bridges carry the route across seasonal streams. Carefully engineered roadbeds provide stable footing for loaded animals, and rest stations at regular intervals offer shelter and water for traveling merchants. These improvements represent significant royal investment in trade infrastructure, demonstrating the kingdom's understanding that commercial prosperity depends on efficient transportation networks. Other travelers share the route, caravans heading inland from the coast with maritime trade goods, local farmers bringing products to regional markets, official messengers carrying communications between the capital and the port authorities. The traffic flow provides security through numbers while creating opportunities for information exchange that keeps merchants informed about conditions in distant markets. Your evening camp is made at one of the established rest stations, a walled compound with facilities for both humans and animals. These stations are maintained by the royal administration as a service to merchants whose trade taxes provide significant royal revenue. The facilities include sleeping quarters, cooking areas, animal pens, and storage for goods that need protection from weather or theft. The meal that evening reflects the transition between highland and coastal zones. Injera bread, made from highland teff grain, but accompanied by fish preserved with coastal salt and spices, that arrived via maritime trade. The combination demonstrates how Aksum's diverse geography and trade connections create a cuisine that blends local products with international influences. As darkness falls over the camp, you review the documents and samples related to your business in Adulis. The pearls you're expecting represent a particularly complex transaction, involving Indian suppliers, Aksumite financing, and eventual sale to Roman customers who value them for jewelry and decorative objects. Success requires precise coordination across vast distances and multiple cultural contexts. Your breathing settles into the relaxed pattern of evening rest as you lie on your traveling bedroll, looking up at stars that are the same ones visible from Aksum but somehow seem brighter in the clear desert air. The familiar constellations provide navigation aids for both land and sea travel, connecting you to the ancient knowledge that makes long-distance commerce possible. The sounds of the desert night create a peaceful background, the distant call of night birds, the soft movement of wind through thorny shrubs, the quiet conversations of other merchants, planning their next day's travel. These sounds carry you towards sleep with the satisfaction that comes from being part of the great trade networks that connect the ancient world. Adulis, gateway to the ancient global economy. The sight of Adulis spread along the Red Sea coast always fills you with wonder and pride. This is one of ancient Africa's greatest ports, a city that serves as the crucial link between the highland kingdom of Aksum and the maritime trade networks that connect the Indian Ocean with the Mediterranean world. Ships from India, Arabia, Egypt, and even distant China crowd the harbor, their diverse designs reflecting the international character of the commerce that flows through this remarkable port. The city itself shows the cosmopolitan influence of its role as a trade gateway. Stone buildings, constructed in Aksumite style, stand alongside structures that show Indian, Arabian, and Roman architectural influences. The result is a unique urban landscape that could exist nowhere else, where different cultural traditions blend to create something entirely new. Your agent in Adulis, a man named Caleb whose family has served yours for 2 generations, meets you at the city's main gate. He's someone whose understanding of both maritime commerce and local conditions makes him invaluable to your operations. His news is generally positive. The Indian ship has arrived safely, its cargo is in good condition, and preliminary negotiations with the ship's captain suggest favorable terms for future business. The pearls are exceptional, he reports as he leads you through the busy streets toward the warehouse district. The Indian captain says they come from the finest beds in the Persian Gulf, harvested by divers who risk their lives to obtain such quality. Roman buyers will pay premium prices for material this fine. The warehouse where your goods are stored sits in the commercial quarter near the harbor. Its thick stone walls and heavy wooden doors providing security for valuable merchandise. Inside, the space is carefully organized with different sections for various product categories. Aromatics in one area, textiles in another, precious goods like pearls and gems in the most secure section. The pearls, when you examine them, justify Caleb's enthusiasm. They range in size from small seed pearls perfect for decorative embroidery to large, perfectly round specimens that will become centerpieces for expensive jewelry. The luster is exceptional with the deep, warm glow that comes from pearls formed in optimal conditions. Roman wealthy women will compete to own pieces made from material this fine. Your breathing deepens as you focus on evaluating the quality and calculating potential profits. Each pearl must be assessed individually for size, shape, color, and surface quality. The best specimens will command prices that seem almost incredible. A single perfect large pearl might sell for enough to buy a comfortable house in Aksum. But the investment is also substantial, and the risks of long-distance trade mean that profits must justify the dangers involved. The Indian captain, a weather-beaten man whose knowledge of monsoon patterns and maritime trade routes represents decades of experience, joins you for the detailed inspection. His ship represents the kind of long-distance commerce that makes Adulis prosperous, a vessel specifically designed for Indian Ocean trade, capable of carrying substantial cargoes across thousands of miles of open water. The pearls are priced fairly, he says in the mixture of Greek and Arabic that serves as a lingua franca for Indian Ocean merchants. My suppliers in the Gulf understand that quality commands premium prices, but they also know that Aksumite merchants have discriminating customers who will pay accordingly. The negotiation involves not just the current cargo but future relationships. Indian Ocean trade operates on seasonal patterns determined by monsoon winds, with ships able to make the voyage between Indian ports and the Red Sea only during specific months each year. Successful merchants must plan months or years in advance, building relationships that ensure access to the finest goods when they become available. Your tour of the harbor provides insight into the remarkable scope of ancient Indian Ocean commerce. Here's a ship from Ceylon loaded with cinnamon and precious stones. There's an Arabian vessel carrying dates, perfumes, and the fine horses that Aksumite nobility values for both warfare and ceremony. A Roman ship displays wine amphorae and fine glassware, destined for wealthy customers throughout the Red Sea region. Each vessel represents sophisticated navigation and shipbuilding technologies that make long-distance commerce possible. The Indian ships are built with flexible hull construction that allows them to ride out ocean storms. Arabian vessels feature shallow drafts that let them navigate both open ocean and coastal waters. Roman ships demonstrate the engineering expertise that has made Mediterranean commerce the most reliable in the ancient world. The diversity of goods flowing through Adulis demonstrates the port's central role in ancient global trade. African products, ivory, gold, exotic animals, aromatics flow outward to markets across the known world. Asian goods, spices, textiles, precious stones arrive for distribution throughout northeastern Africa and the Roman territories. The result is a commercial ecosystem of remarkable complexity and sophistication. As evening approaches, you join fellow merchants for the traditional sunset gathering where business news and market information are shared. These informal meetings serve crucial functions in long-distance trade, providing updates on political conditions, weather patterns, bandit activity, and price movements in distant markets. Information travels along trade routes as reliably as goods, creating networks of commercial intelligence that span continents. The royal city's sacred heart. Your return journey to Aksum takes you back through the diverse landscapes and ecological zones that make the kingdom so prosperous, but this time your pack animals carry goods that will eventually reach markets throughout the ancient world. The pearls are carefully packed in wooden boxes cushioned with silk, the individual specimens wrapped separately to prevent damage during transport. Each box represents wealth that could support a family for years, but also risks that require constant vigilance. The highland capital welcomes you back with familiar sights and sounds. The massive stelae, rising like stone fingers toward the sky. The busy markets where goods from 3 continents change hands daily, the stone buildings that demonstrate Aksumite architectural mastery. But this evening, your business takes you to a different part of the city, one that reveals another aspect of Aksum's remarkable character. The Church of St. Mary of Zion stands at the spiritual heart of Aksum, its distinctive architectural style marking it as uniquely Ethiopian, while its Christian symbols reflect the kingdom's conversion under King Izana nearly 2 centuries ago. The building represents the synthesis of African building traditions with Christian religious requirements, creating something that exists nowhere else in the ancient world. Your visit isn't primarily religious, though you do pause to offer prayers of thanksgiving for your safe return and successful business in Adulis. Instead, you're here to meet with Father Tekel Haymanot, one of the learned priests whose literacy and connections throughout the Christian world make him valuable for certain types of business transactions. The priest greets you in the church's reception chamber, a room decorated with frescoes that show both Christian themes and distinctly African artistic sensibilities. The paintings demonstrate the cultural synthesis that characterizes Aksumite Christianity recognizably. Christian in their religious content but executed in styles that reflect local aesthetic traditions. Brother Izana, he says, using the religious address that reflects your shared Christian faith, I trust your journey to the coast was profitable and safe. Father Tekel Haymanot represents the educated elite that has emerged in Aksum following the kingdom's conversion to Christianity. These priests are not only religious leaders but also scholars, scribes, and sometimes business advisors whose literacy and international Connections provide services that successful merchants require. Your breathing settles into the calm rhythm appropriate for both religious and business. Discussions. The church's stone interior provides natural cooling from the highland heat, while the architectural acoustics create an atmosphere of peaceful contemplation that facilitates serious conversation. I need letters prepared for my agents in Constantinople. You explain, outlining the complex arrangements required to market your pearl collection in the Byzantine capital. The transactions involve currency exchange, shipping arrangements, and legal documentation that must satisfy both Roman law and Aksumite commercial regulations. The priest nods understandingly. This type of international transaction requires expertise in multiple legal systems, languages, and cultural practices. A mistake in documentation could result in goods being confiscated by customs officials, payments being delayed or lost, or business relationships being damaged beyond repair. The letters he will prepare serve multiple functions. They authorize your Byzantine agents to act on your behalf in specific transactions. They provide authentication that Roman officials will recognize as legitimate, and they contain coded information about product quality, pricing, expectations, and market conditions that help your distant representatives make appropriate business decisions. As Father Tekel Haymanot works, using reed pens and ink made from local materials to create documents that will travel thousands of miles, you observe the remarkable scene surrounding you. Here in Highland Africa, in a church that blends African and Christian architectural traditions, an Ethiopian priest writes letters in Greek that will authorize business transactions in Constantinople involving pearls from the Persian Gulf sold to wealthy Roman families. This scene captures the essence of what made Aksum remarkable: its position at the intersection of different worlds, its ability to synthesize influences from multiple cultures, and its role as a bridge between Africa and the broader ancient world. Your kingdom wasn't peripheral to ancient civilization. It was central to the networks that connected different regions and made global commerce possible. The evening call to prayer echoes across the city as church bells ring from multiple towers. Their bronze voices carried by the highland air to every corner of the capital. The sound represents another aspect of Aksumite synthesis. The adoption of Christianity didn't eliminate local traditions but created new forms that blended imported religious ideas with indigenous cultural practices. Outside the church, the city settles into its evening routines. Market stalls are closing as merchants pack away goods that didn't sell during the day. Families gather for evening meals that might include ingredients from multiple continents. Children play games in the stone-paved streets while their parents discuss business prospects and family affairs. Your own evening meal, taken in the comfortable surroundings of your stone house, reflects the international character of Aksumite prosperity. The base remains traditionally African injera, bread and Berbera spice mixtures that have been staples of Highland cuisine for centuries. But the accompaniments tell stories of successful trade: honey from highland forests, dried fruits from Persian orchards, wine from Roman vineyards. As you eat, you review the documents that Father Tekel Haymanot has prepared, examining the precise calligraphy and formal language that will carry your business instructions across thousands of miles to agents you may never meet personally. These letters represent trust, relationships that span continents, connecting you to commercial networks that make ancient global trade possible. The weight of prosperity and legacy. The weeks following your return from Adulis bring the kind of complex business activity that characterizes successful international trade during Aksum's golden age. Letters arrive from agents in distant markets reporting on political conditions, price movements, and opportunities for profitable transactions. Caravans depart for various destinations carrying goods that will eventually reach customers across the known world. Your pearls, carefully transported and expertly documented, begin their journey toward Constantinople, where Roman wealthy families will compete to purchase them. The profits from this single transaction could support your household for several years, but they also represent the culmination of relationships and planning that have taken years to develop and coordinate. The success brings responsibilities as well as rewards. As one of Aksum's most prosperous merchants, you're expected to contribute to civic projects that maintain the kingdom's infrastructure and prestige. The massive stelae that dominate the city's skyline were built through contributions from successful merchants like yourself, creating monuments that proclaim Aksumite power and achievement to anyone approaching the capital. This morning, you receive a summons from one of the royal officials, a man whose family has served the kingdom's administration for generations. The meeting takes place in one of the palace complexes, where stone buildings demonstrate the architectural mastery that characterizes Aksumite construction at its finest. The official, dressed in robes that reflect both his rank and the cosmopolitan character of Aksumite court culture, explains the purpose of your summons. The king is planning a new monument, a stela that will be even larger than the existing ones, designed to commemorate recent military victories and the continued prosperity of the kingdom. Your contributions to the kingdom's commercial success make you one of the merchants whose support we seek for this project, he explains, outlining the technical challenges and financial requirements involved in quarrying, carving, and erecting a granite monument that will stand over 120 feet high. The engineering involved in such a project demonstrates Aksumite capabilities that rival anything achieved by other ancient civilizations. The granite must be quarried from sites located miles from the city, shaped using bronze and iron tools to precise specifications, and then transported and erected using techniques that require sophisticated understanding of physics and engineering. Your breathing deepens as you consider the significance of this request. Contributing to such a monument means your name will be associated with one of Aksum's greatest achievements, carved in stone that will last for thousands of years. But it also represents a substantial financial commitment that must be balanced against other business opportunities and family responsibilities. The afternoon brings a different kind of civic engagement, a meeting with fellow merchants to discuss improvements to the trade infrastructure that supports Aksum's commercial prosperity. The kingdom's success depends on maintaining roads, bridges, rest stations, and port facilities that keep goods flowing efficiently between the highland capital and distant markets. The merchants who gather for this discussion represent the elite of Aksumite commercial society, men whose families have built fortunes through successful long-distance trade, whose understanding of international markets spans continents, whose business relationships connect Aksum to commercial networks throughout the ancient world. Their conversation ranges across topics that affect everyone engaged in international commerce, political conditions in the Roman territories, where civil wars or changes in imperial policy can affect trade relationships, monsoon patterns in the Indian Ocean which determine the timing and safety of maritime trade voyages, bandit activity along land routes which affects the costs and risks of overland transportation. But the discussion also reveals the broader perspective that comes from operating at the center of ancient global trade. These merchants understand that Aksum's prosperity depends not just on natural resources or geographical advantages, but on the kingdom's ability to maintain its position as a trusted intermediary between different cultural and economic systems. "We're not just selling goods," observes one veteran trader whose family has operated international businesses for 3 generations. "We're providing services that connect different worlds, translating not just languages but commercial practices, legal systems, and cultural expectations. This insight captures something essential about Aksum's role in the ancient world. The kingdom succeeded not just because it controlled valuable resources, but because it developed the cultural sophistication and commercial expertise needed to serve as a bridge between Africa and the broader international community. As evening approaches, you walk through the city streets reflecting on your place in this remarkable civilization. Aksum in the 6th century CE represents African achievement at its highest level, a kingdom that controlled trade routes connecting 3 continents, built monuments that rival anything constructed anywhere in the ancient world, and created a cosmopolitan society that successfully synthesized influences from multiple cultures. The massive stelae rising against the evening sky serve as permanent reminders of what human ambition and skill can achieve. These monuments weren't built by outside conquerors or foreign craftsmen, but by African kings and engineers and workers who created something uniquely their own while participating fully in the broader ancient world. Your own success as a merchant represents a small part of this larger achievement. The pearls, now traveling toward Constantinople, the frankincense that will burn in Roman temples, the gold that will be fashioned into jewelry for wealthy families across the Mediterranean. All of these transactions demonstrate Aksum's central role in the networks that connected the ancient world's diverse regions and cultures. Evening reflections on an African empire. As the sun sets behind the western mountains, painting the granite stelae in shades of gold and red, you settle into the evening routines that provide structure and meaning to daily life in this remarkable kingdom. Your stone house welcomes you with familiar comforts after a day spent navigating the complex demands of international commerce and civic responsibility. The evening meal reflects both personal prosperity and the cultural sophistication that characterizes Aksumite society at its peak. Traditional highland foods provide the foundation: injera bread made from teff grain, Berber spice mixtures that have defined Ethiopian cuisine for centuries, honey mead that captures the essence of mountain wildflowers in fermented form. But the accompaniments tell stories of successful trade and cultural exchange. Dried fruits from Persia, preserved in honey and spices. Wine from Roman vineyards, carried across thousands of miles to reach your table. Dates from Arabian oases, their sweetness concentrated by desert, sun and careful preservation. Each item represents business relationships that span continents and cultural connections that make Aksum truly cosmopolitan. As you eat, you reflect on the day's activities and their place in the larger story of your remarkable kingdom. The meeting with royal officials about the new stelae project represents more than just civic contribution, it's participation in the creation of monuments that will proclaim Aksumite achievement to future generations. These stone towers aren't just tomb markers or religious symbols, but statements about what African civilization can accomplish when it has the resources and ambition to attempt great things. Your breathing settles into the relaxed rhythm of evening contemplation as you consider your place in this ancient African success story. The thin highland air, which seemed challenging when you first awakened this morning, now feels natural and energizing. In and out, steady and calm, your body adapted to the conditions that make this highland kingdom unique. The sounds of the city settling into evening routines provide a peaceful background for reflection. Distant voices conversing in multiple languages, Guizi, Greek, Arabic, Latin, reminding you of Aksum's cosmopolitan character. The lowing of cattle being brought in from pasture, connecting you to the agricultural foundations that support urban prosperity. Church bells marking the evening prayer services that reflect the kingdom's Christian identity while maintaining distinctly African characteristics. From your private chamber, you can see portions of the city spread across the highland plateau, its stone buildings and terraced layouts demonstrating the urban planning expertise that makes Aksum, one of ancient Africa's greatest cities. The architecture shows local innovation and international influence in equal measure, unmistakably African in its adaptation to highland conditions and local materials, but also cosmopolitan in its incorporation of techniques and styles learned through contact with other civilizations. The massive stelae dominate the skyline even in evening darkness, their granite surfaces, reflecting moonlight and creating dramatic silhouettes against the star-filled sky. These monuments represent perhaps the most distinctive achievement of Aksumite civilization, architectural forms that exist nowhere else in the ancient world, combining engineering expertise with artistic vision to create something uniquely African yet comparable to the greatest achievements of any civilization. Your leather-bound journal awaits your evening entries, the record-keeping that helps you track both business activities and personal observations about life in this remarkable kingdom. Tonight's notes will include details about the pearl transaction, plans for the Constantinople shipment, and reflections on the civic responsibilities that come with commercial success. But the journal serves purposes beyond simple business documentation. You're living through what may be the golden age of one of ancient Africa's greatest kingdoms, and your daily experiences provide a window into a civilization that most of the world has forgotten or never knew existed. Your records document not just commercial transactions but the daily reality of life at the center of ancient global trade networks. Writing by oil lamp light, you find yourself documenting observations that go beyond business concerns. The way morning light reveals the precise engineering of stone construction throughout the city, the sophisticated understanding of international law and commercial practice demonstrated by royal officials, the casual multilingualism of market conversations, where merchants from different continents conduct business in whatever language proves most convenient. These details may seem insignificant individually, but together they paint a picture of a civilization that was fully engaged with the broader ancient world while maintaining its own distinctive character and achievements. Aksum wasn't peripheral to ancient civilization, it was central to the networks that made ancient global trade possible. As you prepare for sleep, arranging your robes and extinguishing all but one oil lamp, your body settles into the deep relaxation that comes from meaningful work successfully accomplished. The stone floor feels solid beneath your feet, connecting you to the bedrock that supports this highland kingdom. Your breathing naturally deepens as consciousness begins its transition toward rest. The soft sounds of the sleeping city create a peaceful background for approaching sleep. Distant voices, the movement of night air through stone buildings, the occasional call of night birds adapted to highland conditions. These sounds carry you toward rest with the satisfaction that comes from being part of something larger than individual existence. Dreams flow through your sleeping mind like the trade routes that connect Aksum to distant markets, peaceful, purposeful, and filled with images that reflect your daily life as a successful merchant in one of ancient Africa's greatest kingdoms. You dream of caravans moving across vast landscapes, their loads of precious goods destined for markets in Rome, Constantinople, and the cities of the Indian Ocean. In these dreams, the massive stelae of Aksum appear completed and magnificent, their granite surfaces gleaming in eternal sunlight while proclaiming the achievements of African kings to visitors from across the known world. The monuments rise like prayers made visible, statements of human ambition and skill that will endure long after the civilization that created them has passed into history. Your breathing remains deep and regular throughout these peaceful dreams, each inhalation bringing the cool, clean air of the Ethiopian highlands, each exhalation releasing the accumulated tensions and concerns of daily life in this complex, cosmopolitan world. Sleep provides the restoration that successful merchants need to maintain the mental clarity required for international business operations. The dreams shift to scenes of the great markets where goods from 3 continents change. Hands in transactions that span vast distances and multiple cultures. You see yourself negotiating with Roman merchants, examining silk textiles from China, evaluating spices from Indian Ocean islands, all while maintaining the careful balance between trust and caution that makes long-distance commerce possible. Sometimes you dream of your homeland's remarkable diversity, highland farmers terracing, steep slopes to maximize agricultural productivity, artisans in stone workshops carving, monuments that will last for millennia, priests in distinctive Ethiopian churches conducting services that blend Christian theology with African cultural traditions. Other dreams carry you to distant places connected to Aksum through trade relationships, Roman palaces where frankincense burns in religious ceremonies, Indian workshops where craftsmen fashion jewelry from African gold, Persian markets where merchants display ivory, carved by Aksumite artisans. Through your chamber window, stars continue their ancient patterns across the African sky. These same constellations guided the ships that brought goods to Adulis, provided navigation. Aids for the caravans that crossed desert and highland, connected Aksum to the broader networks of ancient commerce and cultural exchange. The oil lamp beside your bed burns lower as its fuel is consumed, its gentle flame providing just enough light to maintain the peaceful atmosphere without disturbing natural sleep rhythms. The lamp's ceramic base shows decorative patterns that blend local artistic traditions with influences absorbed through contact with other civilizations. Your sleeping mind processes the day's experiences, the successful completion of the pearl transaction, the planning for future business ventures, the civic responsibilities that come with commercial success in a kingdom where prosperity brings obligations to support collective achievements. Occasionally, the distant sounds of night construction or late travelers penetrate your dreams, the continuing work on monuments and buildings that will define Aksum's legacy. The movement of merchants and officials whose activities maintain the kingdom's position at the center of ancient trade networks. The chamber feels particularly secure and comfortable tonight, a private sanctuary where you can exist as yourself rather than as a public figure in one of ancient Africa's most cosmopolitan societies. Your position as royal scribe provides not just meaningful work but also the material comforts that make dedication sustainable over the years required for major construction projects. Your breathing grows even deeper as sleep reaches its most restorative phases, your body completely relaxed while your mind processes the remarkable privilege of witnessing and participating in one of ancient Africa's greatest civilizations. Tomorrow will bring new opportunities to serve the kingdom's continuing prosperity through skilled commercial activities. In the deepest part of night, when oil lamps create scattered points of light throughout the sleeping city, you rest with the profound satisfaction that comes from meaningful work successfully accomplished. Your business activities contribute to Aksum's prosperity while connecting the kingdom to the broader networks that make ancient global trade possible. The Highland night enfolds the entire city in peaceful darkness, while merchants and craftsmen and royal officials sleep in preparation for another day of the activities that maintain Aksum's position as one of the ancient world's great powers. Your own small part in this great enterprise, the successful negotiation of international transactions that bring prosperity to the kingdom, represents the highest use of commercial skills in service to civilizational achievement. Sleep well, keeper of trade networks, facilitator of cultural exchange between continents. Your business activities and civic contributions help preserve this remarkable African kingdom as a beacon of achievement and prosperity. The great stelae rise steadily toward completion, stone by stone, transaction by transaction, reaching toward their destined place as Africa's most enduring monuments to royal power and cultural sophistication. Rest in the knowledge that your commercial expertise helps maintain Aksum's crucial role as intermediary between different worlds, ensuring that the technical mastery and cultural achievements of this highland kingdom will be remembered and admired by future generations. The kingdom of Aksum stands as testament to what African civilization can achieve when it has the resources and ambition to attempt great things. Your breathing remains deep and peaceful throughout the night, carrying you through restorative sleep toward dawn and another day of contributing to immortal achievement. Around you, one of ancient Africa's greatest cities continues its steady progress toward the completion that will stand as humanity's ultimate example of successful cultural synthesis and international commerce. Dream peacefully, merchant prince, secure in the knowledge that your skills serve purposes greater than individual enrichment, contributing to monuments and achievements that will inspire wonder and admiration long after the civilization that created them has become ancient. History itself. Dawn of another trading day. As the first light of a new day begins to appear on the eastern horizon, you sleep on peacefully. In your comfortable chamber, you're breathing deep and regular as your body completes its nightly restoration. The highland air remains cool and thin, perfect for the refreshing sleep that successful merchants need to maintain the mental clarity required for complex international business operations. The sun god begins another journey across the Ethiopian sky, the same daily cycle that has marked time since the creation of the world. Soon, the growing light will wake you naturally to another day of contributing to Aksum's remarkable position as the crucial link between Africa and the broader ancient world, adding your commercial skills and cultural sophistication to one of humanity's greatest trading civilizations. Your dreams continue to flow peacefully, visions of successful negotiations, trade routes that connect distant continents, and the deep satisfaction that comes from serving purposes greater than individual prosperity. The great stelae grow steadily toward completion in these dreams, their granite surfaces gleaming with the promise of eternal recognition for African achievement. The city begins to stir quietly as the earliest risers prepare for another day of the activities that maintain Aksum's prosperity. Merchants check their goods and prepare for market activities. Craftsmen begin work on monuments and buildings that will define the kingdom's legacy. Royal officials review the correspondence and documentation that keeps international trade functioning smoothly. Your sleeping chamber remains peaceful and comfortable, providing the perfect environment for complete rest and restoration. The stone walls maintain ideal temperature through the cool highland night, while soft textiles from across the known world ensure comfort worthy of your position in Aksumite commercial society. The oil lamp beside your bed has burned very low, its small flame flickering as the last of its fuel is consumed. Soon, natural daylight will replace artificial illumination, marking the transition from night's rest to day's purposeful commercial activity. But for now, peaceful sleep continues, undisturbed. Through your window, the massive stelae gradually become more distinct against the lightning sky. These monuments to royal power and cultural achievement continue their silent watch over the sleeping city, their granite surfaces showing the first hints of dawn's golden light. Your breathing remains deep and rhythmic, each inhalation bringing clean highland air, each exhalation releasing the last traces of sleep's peaceful restoration. The rhythm carries you toward natural awakening and another day of skilled participation in the trade networks that connect 3 continents. The stars begin to fade as dawn approaches, though they remain visible enough to show the same patterns that guided ancient navigation and connected Aksum to distant markets. Ethiopian astronomy achieves its highest precision in the service of commerce and cultural exchange, aligning the kingdom's activities with celestial forces that ensure continued prosperity. Soon, Dawit will arrive with fresh water and updates on the night's caravan arrivals. The familiar routines of washing, dressing, and morning planning will prepare you for another day of negotiations that might involve merchants from Rome, Persia, India, or the mysterious lands beyond the great deserts. But for these final moments of night, there is only peaceful sleep, comfortable rest, and the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing your commercial activities contribute to something truly permanent. The Kingdom of Aksum represents African achievement at its highest level, a civilization that successfully synthesized influences from multiple cultures while maintaining its own distinctive character. Your dreams blend the day's experiences with hopes for tomorrow's achievements. More successful negotiations with international merchants, more contributions to the civic projects that proclaim Aksumite greatness, more opportunities to serve as a bridge between different worlds through skilled commercial intermediation. The highland night gradually gives way to dawn's approach, marking the transition from rest to activity, from dreams to purposeful work. Soon, you'll wake naturally to continue your vital role in maintaining the trade relationships that make Aksum prosperous and culturally sophisticated. Sleep deeply now in these final moments of night, knowing that your business expertise helps preserve this remarkable African kingdom as one of the ancient world's great powers. Your skills as an international merchant serve eternal purposes, ensuring that the commercial networks and cultural achievements of this highland civilization will be remembered and studied by scholars for thousands of years to come. Rest well, facilitator of international commerce, as the great trading empire of Aksum continues its steady progress toward the completion of monuments and achievements that will stand as permanent testimony to African capability and ambition. Tomorrow brings new opportunities to contribute your highest skills to civilizational greatness, adding commercial expertise to the archives that will outlast empires and inspire future generations. Your breathing remains slow and peaceful as sleep carries you toward natural awakening and another day of serving divine purpose through human skill. The trade routes stretch steadily across continents, connecting Aksum to markets in Rome, Persia, India, and China, creating networks of cultural exchange that will influence human civilization for centuries to come. Dream on peacefully, master merchant, secure in the knowledge that your negotiations help ensure this ancient African kingdom will be properly understood and appreciated by historians and archaeologists who will study its achievements long after its political power has ended. The Kingdom of Aksum stands as humanity's ultimate example of successful international commerce and cultural synthesis, preserved for eternity through the careful records and magnificent monuments you help create each day. Sleep now and dream of the golden age of African achievement, while serving faithfully in the commercial networks that made this highland kingdom one of the ancient world's four great powers, equal in importance to Rome, Persia, and China in the interconnected world of late antiquity.